Welcome to issue 55 of Cretaceous Encounters, a podcast about Marvel Champions, a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. Here, we take a good look at that most critical piece of the game, the encounter set. We'll discuss those poorly understood characters, unfairly labeled lizards, and their various plans to eat humanity and benefit the planet, as well as those so-called mammals intent on thwarting them. I'm one of your hosts, Matt. Joining me tonight is Mike.
Hey, Matt. Welcome aboard. Welcome to the lair.
Thank you. Steve.
How you doing, Matt? Glad to have you.
Gustava.
Hello, Dr. Carrano. We meet again.
And Daniel.
My dear friend, how are you?
Very well. You, sir?
Oh, fantastic. But before I say more to you, Matt, Moose, what's on your mind tonight?
You know, Daniel, I'm glad you asked me that.
Me too.
Hang on, I need to go to the washroom.
Here
I have a couple of observations here and a question. I think, as our distinguished guest here will attest, after the dinosaurs died out, mammals became the dominant life form on the planet. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Dinosaurs had scales and feathers, and mammals are covered in fur. Is that more or less correct?
2 for 2.
Yep. So then, I guess, could you say that things got a little bit hairy after the asteroid hit?
I mean, you could say that, but why would you say that?
Also, I have another question. What would you call a terrible, horrible, unpleasant dinosaur?
Are you reading your children's dinosaur joke book, Mustafa?
I cannot deny or confirm that. A thesaurus.
Daniel, I'm professionally prohibited from fielding these questions.
No, I understand.
All right, but I have one last thing to say. Just a quick question. What would you call a Tyrannosaurus that's also a witch?
A Tyrannosaurus Hex?
Correct. I knew there was a reason we had you on this show.
Oh,
welcome to the show, Dr. Carrano. I'm done.
Are you sure?
Well done.
I'm not done, but I'll stop here. Actually, you know what? Since you asked, what do you call a dinosaur with one eye? Do you think he saw us?
All right.
No. I'd like you to name that dinosaur that way when you find it,
Wow.
Dr. Carrano.
Okay.
I'll try to oblige.
So, folks, what an incredibly special issue we have for you tonight. We are joined by none other than Matt Carrano. He's the curator of Dinosauria at the Natural History Museum here in Washington, D.C. Now, Matt, you are many things, but more importantly, you are a great friend to me in real life. So I am so delighted to have you on. Welcome to Critical Encounters.
Thank you. The feeling is very mutual. I'm happy to be here.
Now, you've been on the radio, Matt. You've been on TV. You've been on other podcasts. You've given countless talks around the world, but I don't want you to be nervous to be in this august company, okay? Because I don't think you've ever done anything as serious as this.
I got to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous.
See, I know. We have that effect on our guests. So just relax. You are the source of all knowledge. So yeah, thank you for being here.
And if you're not relaxed after that wonderful intro, you should really be, because that's the kind of the top standard we hit on this show.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, Matt, we have a bunch of questions that we like to ask our guests, and we'll do a little round table. We'll let Steve ask the first one, but just these are going to be nerdy, comic-y based questions. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right.
Okay, evil Dr. Carrano. Our first question is, who's your favorite Marvel villain? And I guess it could be you if you're an evil doctor. So,
yeah, I don't know that I've earned the chops for that at the moment, but I'll get back to you on how I'm doing. Hard to have a top villain. I would say for sheer entertainment value, I really got to go with the Grandmaster in Thor Ragnarok. For me, I just can watch that all day. But if we're going to be expansive about Marvel, I would also go with Dr. Octopus, even though technically those weren't Marvel movies at the time.
It's good. Those are both good options.
And mostly it's because I like the actors too.
Yeah, they're both the Goldblum and Molina.
Alfred Molina. Yeah.
Those are both excellent. I see that you chose a doctor in there too, so we're okay.
Well, yeah.
Doctors got to stick together.
A real doctor too, not an MD.
It's true, not an MD.
Okay.
Not a quote doctor, unquote, no.
Mike, why don't you ask the next one?
All right. Evil Dr. Carrano, which hero do you like to see getting beaten up?
Well, again, it kind of mixes in with the actor a little bit. So there's always something satisfying about watching Iron Man get beat up a little bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is
And
so
there's
the right answer.
Also something good about watching Star-Lord get beat up a little bit.
Oh,
He
So-
sometimes deserves it.
Yeah, exactly. It's more earned, I think, for him.
Yeah.
So
I
there's
get
something
the league
good for
deserve
me
it.
in this.
Daniel didn't prompt you on the first answer.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I didn't. I swear I didn't. And Matt, do you have like a favorite Marvel movie, comic, TV series, or something you really dig?
I'm definitely digging WandaVision right now, for sure. But I would say for me, the favorites are things I like Thor Ragnarok a lot. I like Guardians of the Galaxy a lot because, like, God forbid, the people in those movies actually seem like they're enjoying themselves. So I find them much more fun. Like, I really just, 5 or 6 minutes into Guardians of the Galaxy, I was like already having a good time. And some of them, to me, while the stories are interesting, like the movies themselves sometimes can feel a little bit like homework, to get to the big
Sure.
blowout movies. But those, I think, they're just super fun. So I just really
Awesome.
They're definitely fun ones.
Now, Mike, why on earth? I mean, it's great to have you here, Matt, but why on earth do we have a dinosaur expert on the show tonight, Mike? What's
Oh,
happening?
because he's a fan of the game, of course. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Do I get a
Oh.
question or no?
nope,
No,
that's
I
it.
don't get a okay, fine.
Well, do you have one?
had your no. It's gonna
Yeah,
be a
you
joke
had
from
4
before.
questions, Moose.
Do you have one that doesn't come out of your kid's joke book and stuff?
Hey, my kids have more than one joke book. I'll have you know.
Is that a
We
threat?
don't have just one. And we give some of them to you when we're done with them. So don't complain. Now, here's the question, and this is kind of in line with a previous question. But which hero, comic book hero, it doesn't have to be Marvel, do you think is the most stuck-up, self-righteous douchebag in all the universe of heroes?
Again, I don't have like a comprehensive feel for this, but certainly one that leaps to mind would be like Ozymandias.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I can see that.
I mean, to some degree, most of them have a little angle like that.
Right. I mean, there's
Right.
so many to choose from, right? Like, it's hard to pick one.
It
So
is.
you only asked this question so you could hold forth, Moose? Okay.
What do you think, Mustafa?
Oh, I mean, I could start and just keep going, but I think we need to really talk to our guest here. But Captain America is number one on my list of douchebags. Oh, look at me. I'm so righteous. I have a shield. Come on, sit down.
Wow.
All right.
So Mike, back to my original question.
Tonight, we are joined here by Matt, because Matt is, of course, a fan of the game. And the theme of tonight is going to be looking at one of the modular sets. Kang has been recently released. We love it. So we're going to have a look at the Temporal set. So Matt is here. He has graciously offered to come and talk to us.
You mean he was tricked to come here?
Possibly tricked. We
Yep.
sent
Told
him.
there would be snacks.
Yeah, coffee and donuts. He has offered to come on and give us the backstory for the titular villain of the Temporal Encounter set. So Matt, take it away. Tell us all about the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Well, so, on the one hand, what does one need to say about Tyrannosaurus Rex? The most American of dinosaurs, if ever there was an American dinosaur, it's T-Rex. It's actually endemic to the United States. It's almost the only place it's found. And like a good American dinosaur, you cannot get away from it, even if you want to.
Nice.
It is everywhere. It is the number one on everyone's list, and with some pretty good reason. So T-Rex is one of the last dinosaurs on Earth. Was certainly alive when the meteor struck. Dinosaur species don't last that long. They're around for something less than 1 million years. So there is always turnover. So with dinosaurs being around for 160 million years, most of that time there's no T-Rexes. It's only really right at the end. And you get other kind of classic dinosaurs like Triceratops at the same moment. So it's part of a family of dinosaurs. This group of related species that goes back, probably 40 or 50 million years. They start up not terribly big, kind of person-sized, and they're found pretty broadly around the world. But the big ones that we're familiar with are in Asia and North America, and then they're really sort of at the end of dinosaur times, and T-Rex is just the last one. It is, everything it's advertised to be. It's a gigantic two-legged carnivore, tiny little front legs, giant head, giant teeth, which I like to refer to as murder bananas because they're actually almost round, but they have serrated edges on them. Most dinosaur teeth are very blade-like. T-Rex teeth are quite bulky, and you find other fossils in the same environment that very clearly have puncture wounds of T-Rex teeth in them. So they're quite capable of busting through bone with these teeth. It's about 40 feet long, weighs somewhere between 5 and 7 tons. Probably doesn't roar, although it would have been more dramatic if it did.
You're breaking my heart.
I know. It's
what sound does it make?
Dinosaurs probably sounded a lot like birds, but probably not singing birds. Birds like ostriches and emus and things like that, or crocodilians. And they all make kind of similar noises, grunting and hissing and those kinds of sounds. But in general, if you think about reptiles, they're not the noisiest animals in the world, right? I mean, like snakes don't scream or anything. Although wouldn't it be cool if they did?
Oh my God. Screaming viper.
Oh, that would be what an upgrade.
Oh, that's going on my evil to-do list.
But I think they're sufficiently terrifying. They're pretty impressive animals. They're the only big carnivores in their environment. They're pretty widespread in North America up until the point they get whacked. And if you think about dinosaurs are egg-laying animals, so a T-Rex would hatch. A T-Rex wouldn't be very big, size of a terrier. And then they got to grow up to be this 5 or 6 ton animal. So a T-Rex is probably eating at one point in its life, like eating everything in its environment. It's going to hatch and it's going to eat like bugs and lizards, and then it's going to grow up and eat baby dinosaurs of other kinds and get bigger and bigger and just keep eating bigger things. So it's kind of an all-purpose animal, all-purpose carnivore, which is kind of cool.
I can't imagine how much a teenage T-Rex eats because my teenage son, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they have a growth spurt just like humans do. So when they're teenagers, they're growing like crazy. So it's exactly like that. Plus, they're probably a lot faster when they're little, so they'd be even more terrifying, I think.
Would they be kind of like the little alien that pops out of the chest cavity?
As a little hatchling one, would probably be like pretty crazy ravenous.
It makes sense.
I like that image now in my mind. So.
Yeah, you think about yourself. If you were out there just like barehanded, you would be just woefully ill-equipped to deal with even a young T-Rex.
Do we know anything about their kind of social structure? Were they social animals? Were they loners? Did they look after their young? Or did they just lay 1,000 eggs? Do we know any of that?
There's sort of indirect information. So, most birds and most crocodilians, and these are the closest related living animals we have to dinosaurs. I mean, birds are descended from dinosaurs, so they are dinosaurs. But if you look at these animals, they all have some form of parental care and at least some sort of loose sociality. So, I mean, crocodilians are quite good parents up to when they hatch. And so they watch the nest, they get the young to the water, And there's a lot of evidence that at least some dinosaurs were like that. And I would probably imagine most of them did some sort of care. And then you have some indirect evidence that they have social groups because for some animals, you find them like fossilized in these giant herds. Mm-hmm. Or you'll see footprints of like several different individuals, all the same kind of footprint. They're all going the same direction. Seems to suggest they're all kind of a group. But the big carnivores, it's less clear. There's not as obvious a bunch of info. And they certainly could have been. Jurassic Park stuff with velociraptors, probably. But no reason why they couldn't have had at least some social system.
So you mentioned that some of the bigger dinosaurs were around at this time, and you sort of lightly touched on the ones we know. Could you elaborate? Like, what was this guy eating?
So T-Rex is living with, so you have Triceratops and another horned dinosaur called Torosaurus. You have duck-billed dinosaurs. The most common one would have been something called Edmontosaurus, named for Edmonton, Canada.
Oh yeah, I know that one well.
Yeah, and then you have a lot of smaller things. You have a dome-headed dinosaur called Pachycephalosaurus, a small, probably like German Shepherd-sized plant eater called Thescelosaurus, and then you got all these little carnivorous things running around, like there's sort of bird-like things. There's one called Achiroraptor. There's one called Anzu, which is a kind of beaked, very crazy looking. It's almost like kind of a cassowary, a big helmet on its head. And the thing you don't have in these environments is you don't have big sauropods like brontosaur type dinosaurs. They're totally absent. It's one of the few places where they aren't for whatever reason. And so it's mostly these kind of big plant eaters. And you have some evidence from Edmontosaurus, for example, and Triceratops. You do have T-Rex tooth marks on their skeletons. In most cases, you don't know if it's like, it was killed by the T-Rex or was dead and was eaten by the T-Rex, but certainly they're consuming them.
And what does the name mean? I know Rex means king.
Rex means king. Tyrannosaurus means tyrant lizard.
Tyrant
so the
lizard.
The king tyrant lizard.
Lizards. Wow.
Yep, exactly.
Are there other Tyrannosauruses? Saurii?
Yeah, there's one in Mongolia, which is, some people call it Tarbosaurus, and some people call it Tyrannosaurus. The species name is called Batar, which is a Mongolian word. And that's about it. Those are the only two.
Fascinating.
And then you have, other animals in the group. There's something called Daspletosaurus, Albertosaurus, Gorgosaurus. These are all tyrannosaurs, and they're all sort of in that family.
And they're all carnivores.
And they're all carnivores. And they're all, they're sort of on the same basic plane. You'd recognize one right away. You might say, oh, it looks like a kind of a young T-Rex. They're like a little more slender, a little bit smaller, like 30 feet instead of 40 feet. But, they get the job done.
So does this guy have a nemesis in the world? Or is he just eats everything? Nothing phases him?
There's certainly nothing like as a predator. The end point for a T-Rex is like death and decomposition, not somebody eating it, really. But the classic face-off is T-Rex and Triceratops.
Isn't that the museum, Matt?
That's like the Field Museum has this very famous painting by Charles Knight that became sort of iconic of the two facing off. And then like many museums have put them together. We have it in our museum.
Right. I was going to say, yeah, I've seen
Yep.
that. And,
Yep.
But I mean, a Triceratops could mess it up, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go after an adult Triceratops unless I was starving. I mean, first of all, you got to think, for every adult dinosaur, there's like 10 baby dinosaurs out there. So right there, why bother? But yeah, I mean, the thing's got, 4-foot horns on its head, and, it's a big frill protecting its neck, and it's, it's the size of a rhino. I mean, it's not going to be an easy thing to kill. So, you go for the sick ones or eat a dead one. I mean, that's the way to do it.
I
Let
imagine
nature do the hard work.
I imagine the Spartan phalanx, with a whole bunch of them balled up with their horns out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had a kid's book where the exact thing was like a painting like that with like the babies in the middle and then all the adults like facing out.
So Matt, we often we'll take the villains and the nemesis and the minions and stuff. We'll try to find some sympathetic way into their backstory, who really are these people? What turned them into the villain that they are? How do we relate to the T-Rex? What's this guy really about? What motivates him? Look,
T-Rex, like all of these things, it's just a hard-working dinosaur trying to make its way in the world.
There you go.
You drop it into, I'm going to guess, Central Park in this picture.
Yep.
I mean, who wouldn't be distraught, confused, probably had something going on that evening. Now it's all messed up, right? These screaming mammals everywhere. I mean, who doesn't want to just lay low a bunch of screaming mammals? I mean, I think that's I'd be sympathetic. They're probably throwing things at it.
If you dropped one of us into a big box of rats or something, right?
Yeah. Or screaming snakes. You just want to hit them with sticks, right? I mean, I think that's the thing, right? It's there are villains who are kind of twisted and evil, and then there are villains just because you don't like what they do.
Are you saying society turned T-Rex into a villain?
I'm saying we're a little judgy sometimes.
Okay.
I think
support that.
T-Rex gets a lot of respect, unlike other.
Yeah, but it's like often fear respect, right?
Yeah,
Which is fine. I mean, that does get the job done, but
we don't respect him for his poetry, say. So,
right.
yeah.
Probably don't even ask about his poetry.
I'm going to look for some.
I could say I've never heard any T-Rex poetry before.
I mean, it's better than Vogon poetry.
Oh, true.
That's a low standard there.
Low hanging fruit there.
But like in Jurassic Park, Dr. Grant has a very sensible line, right, about the carnivores. Who's like, they just do what they do. It's just that's their job. Eat stuff.
So we can't blame him for the forces that drive him, is what you're saying. Okay.
I mean, he comes from a place where it's important that he goes out and eat things.
I mean, it would be like blaming people for eating burgers.
Think of how much burger overpopulation there would be if we didn't eat them.
Yeah.
Fair point. Well, I now like the T-Rex a lot more than I did before.
Now, is he your favorite dinosaur?
Oh, no. I mean, T-Rex doesn't need my help.
Right.
I try to steer people to other dinosaurs.
Which one would you say is your favorite?
Um,
Because my 7-year-old will want to know this later.
Yeah, so I don't have favorite dinosaurs because you're not supposed to have favorite children, and that's what it feels like a little bit. But there's a dinosaur I like that we have at the museum called Ceratosaurus, which is a very distant cousin of a T-Rex. Smaller, probably 20 feet long. Just a weird dinosaur. And uncommon, so it doesn't, get that much attention. It's actually in Jurassic Park 3 for like maybe 90 seconds. But it's just kind of more interesting in some ways than a T-Rex, and just doesn't get the attention. So I was, kind of like the underdog aspect of that.
So
Yeah.
I imagine people in your line of work and such kind of roll your eyes at the mention of the T-Rex, right? I mean, it's just, here we go.
Yeah, I mean,
again.
if you're a paleontologist and you don't work on dinosaurs, then you roll your eyes just at the mention of the word dinosaur in general.
Right.
And then within dinosaurs, yes, that's often the case. But actually, I mean, even there's a sizable crop of paleontologists who really only want to work on T-Rex.
Oh, okay.
So again, they don't. It doesn't need my help. It's getting well studied. It's if you're in biology, there are these things we call model organisms. Like fruit flies, or zebrafish or whatever, or rhesus monkeys, where like you do all the study on that thing and that thing up and down, right? You just like know everything about it. And for paleontologists, T-Rex is the model organism. Like every time we get a new technique or a new thing, we try it out on the stuff we know about T-Rex.
Okay.
It's getting plenty of work done on it.
In fact, you could say it's if you want to criticize it, it's like getting too much attention. It's like an attention hogger. Like
Yeah,
what about
I mean,
other Tyrannosauri, right? Or
right.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a very American dinosaur.
It's like the Tony Stark of dinosaurs.
Except we don't want to beat it up.
Well, we can't.
So Steve mentioned like his 7-year-old wanting to know a fact. So for years now, Matt, Elsa has really wanted to know the exact date dinosaurs went extinct.
Ooh, how exact do they have to be?
I don't mean within 1,000 years or so. I think she meant
like-
the exact date.
March 23rd.
Wednesday.
Yeah, that's
So
I mean, I could give you one. You probably can't prove me wrong.
that's perfect, actually.
Good enough for us.
It has to be said by you in your voice, because I've tried the whole March 23rd and she didn't believe me. So, but she said she'd believe you.
Yeah, we don't know that maybe the day and month, but it was definitely a Wednesday. You could tell her that.
It has to be.
Tell her that and tell me what she says. I just want,
Okay.
want
Well,
to hear what she
speaking
says.
of going extinct, one thing you told me actually was very impressive, even though you kind of made it offhanded, in an offhanded way. You said, dinosaurs don't stick around very long. They're only around for a million years.
100 million years.
No, individual species are only around for a million years or less.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually, if you think about it, our species has been around for how long? What, 40,000 maybe?
It depends how
Yeah.
you count it, right?
Homo sapiens.
But less than a million.
Right. We're much less
Yeah.
than a million. And we
On the high end, it's 100 or 200,000. On the low end, it's 40, depending on what you want to.
yeah.
Where you want to draw the pencil
So
line.
at best, we're like about 10% of the way to a kind of regular dinosaur. I feel like they've been around far longer than we ever will. But that's just me being pessimistic about the future of our species.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to sort of think about that, right? Because it's hard to know what rules still apply to us and which ones don't.
Yeah.
Right? Because on the one hand, we're like playing with the system that usually makes things extinct, and on the other hand, we're pushing a lot of buttons and we don't know what they do.
Yep. Well, we know exactly what they do sometimes, but we're still pushing them.
Also true.
Like true
Also
villains.
True. Yes.
I mean, you see a button, you have to push it. So,
what's this do? Yeah. Well, Matt, that was awesome. We learned a ton.
It's all T-Rex. T-Rex is awesome.
And I know you can keep going. And thank you for coming on a show. And I'm sure when I said, "Hey, there's a dinosaur," when you talk about T-Rex, you're like, So
no, this is great.
Is there more? I know you could talk for literally hours and days on this. Is there something else that we definitely need to know about the T-Rex before we look at the cards from this set?
I think the only thing I would say, just as a sort of side point, is another fun fact about T-Rex is we have fossil T-Rex poop, which is pretty sizable.
I was going to say
it's impressive, and it's a deductive identification. You find it in the environment T-Rex is found in, and it's full of digested parts of animals, and it's way too big to have come out of anything else. And that's basically the argument. But it's a reasonable argument, and there you go. So we have some evidence of a lot of things for a T-Rex that we don't typically have for dinosaurs. We don't often know what the output is for any given species, but we do for this.
So you've so sweetly and nicely taken me to the sub basement in the Natural History Museum to look at all the fossils and the bones and stuff. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Is it secret? But how much stuff is there, Matt? Like how many T-Rexes do you have in the Natural History Museum?
We're kind of low on T-Rexes. We really have the one skeleton in the exhibit, and we only got that skeleton recently.
Okay.
We're not like the T-Rex headquarters.
So, say a group of villains was looking to heist some T-Rex bones. Where do we go?
Yeah, somewhere else. Go to the American Museum of Natural History in New York.
Oh, it's a lot closer for me. Okay.
They have a few. There's a couple in Drumheller, and the biggest pile is probably at the Museum of the Rockies in Bozeman.
Okay.
Montana's like ground zero for T-Rex. I'm not recommending anybody out there go break into the Museum of the Rockies. I'm just saying
that's where we.
If you were writing a realistic story about this, you would set it at the Museum of the Rockies.
I see. Okay.
You understand the difference.
There's a lot of bones down there in that basement, though, from all sorts of things.
So
it's just fascinating.
Yeah, my department I think has like 26 million fossils, most of which are not bones, most of which are things like shells and fossil plants, but fossils nonetheless. But still, yeah, it's the world's largest natural history collection.
Well, I look forward to it opening back up and hanging out there again with you and
me both.
It's so fun. Because you just rebuilt the whole dinosaur thing,
and then closed
just opened and then pandemic, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gathering.
It was a 5-year project, right?
7.5 years.
Okay.
It was closed for 5.
Okay, that's what. Okay,
it was closed for 5. Yep.
I got a chance to see it. It is beautiful, beautiful work, sir.
Well, you're all invited as soon as we're open.
Critical Encounters field trip.
Sounds good.
So, yeah,
I'm in.
Do all the bones have little masks on and stuff like that to be safe?
I'm not even allowed in the building. I don't even know the answer to that question.
Well, Steve, let's talk about these cards.
Yeah, okay. So the Temporal set, like Mike said, comes in Kang. There are 7 total cards, but only 4 by title. So it's a pretty small set overall. So, Matt, why don't you read us the main guy here?
All right. So the Tyrannosaurus Rex card, he's a minion. 0 scheme. I think that's quite realistic. Not the sharpest. Not the sharpest stick. 3 attack with a special. I'll get to that. 6 hit points. Creature, obviously. Temporal, obviously. Toughness. I think it's a very realistic card. Can I just interject that? I like this. The special is that the attacks gain piercing, and that is just straight out of the fossil record. I love this.
But based on what you said, he should get puncturing. But I guess that's not a keyword in our game.
No,
So,
but I still, I think it's a nice touch. And then 3 boost.
with the attachment murder bananas. That's a card you need to make, Steve.
Okay. Yep.
Matt, this seems like a realistic card for you.
I like it.
Okay.
I think it, it covers the basic qualities pretty accurately.
All right. So let me put it in this kind of perspective for you, and you gauge whether or not this makes sense. The Tyrannosaurus Rex's attack is the exact same as Hulk and She-Hulk. What do you think of that?
Combined or individually?
Individually. So the Hulk is as strong as T-Rex.
Is attack just a strength feature, or does it encompass any other quality?
That's a great question. It could encompass some strategery. I don't know. But for Hulk, probably not, because Hulk also has 0. The heroic version of scheme.
And Tyrannosaurus Rex would have to bite Hulk 6 times before it could dispatch it.
That's possible.
Yeah. And Hulk only needs to hit him twice.
Yeah.
So I think here's the thing with the T-Rex, and that might undervalue the T-Rex a little bit. I think where the attack maybe lessens is that you really only have the head here doing the attacking. So it's a big animal that has to bite you. There's nothing else. Whereas,
Tail? Can a tail swipe?
Kind of, it can, but I would say this is not an ideal, this would be like a desperation measure. It's not where all the, the machinery is not geared for that as an attack weapon, right? So everything's sort of put into the head as the weapon. Whereas you can see something like Hulk, you're still a primate. You still got hands and arms, and there's a lot of agility and sophistication to that might give you a little bit of an edge in certain situations. Whether it gives you an edge with a T-Rex, I don't know about that. But it's not like T-Rex is going to use its hands. It's only got 2 legs, so it can only do so much with those legs besides walk on them.
Now, here's a rumor about T-Rex and their fighting style, Matt, that I've heard somewhere, but I don't know if it's true or not. But is it true that they couldn't really turn? They charge at you, and all you have to do is kind of wait and then just dodge. It's like fighting Rhino, the villain in our game here too.
Yeah, so I think you got that from the book, The Decolonization of Sam Magruder.
Oh my God, it's our book club. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
that's exactly where I got it.
In general, that's big things are probably not super agile. Whether that's like a structural or a behavioral thing, it's hard to know. But it doesn't behoove big animals to be doing that kind of thing, right?
Sure.
And there's because just size becomes your enemy, right? This is like 4. Biologists just say there's like 4 classes of animals, right? There's animals that, and this would be a T-Rex. They're of a certain size that if you fall from any height, you're going to hurt yourself, right? Then there's animals where if they fall from certain heights, they hurt themselves. Then there's animals that it doesn't matter what height they fall from, they never get hurt. That's like a mouse. You could throw a mouse off a building and it won't get hurt when it hits the cement.
It won't?
And then the small size of, nope. And then the small size of animal, if they fall, they're equally likely to go up as down.
Sure.
Right. And so once you're big enough, you just don't do that. So I would say, yeah, but T-Rex is eating animals in its environment that are equally not agile.
Okay.
But when it's facing something like Hulk, maybe, some agility there.
So when we throw a T-Rex off a building, what happens?
It dies.
It dies. Okay.
Honestly, if you cow tipped a T-Rex, it would break its ribs.
Oh.
The bigger they are.
That would take a lot to tip one over, right?
Yeah.
Hulk could do it, presumably.
Yeah, I think so.
She-Hulk with that 1-2 punch takes out a whole T-Rex.
I know it's not tough.
Yeah,
obviously, Squirrel Girl comes first.
Right.
Takes off the toughness.
Just damn mammals.
Now, Matt, why would they have toughness? Was their skin defense? It doesn't look like they're made of any defensive stuff.
No, it's just this. Again, I think a size thing. It's just like an elephant, right? Elephants don't have any armor, but it's hard to get through elephant skin.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys ever saw that nature show with the hyenas eating the dead elephant, but they go in the back door. They don't go through the skin.
Thank you for that.
See that show.
Thank you for that image.
Did not think I could respect the hyenas any less, but there it is.
There it is. All right.
Yeah, I love the piercing on this card too. I think that's perfect, right? Because you mentioned seeing the bones with the
Yeah.
T-Rex marks in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good card.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. Next card is not a dinosaur. It is another warrior from the time stream. It is an ancient warrior. There are 3 copies of these from the deck. It is a minion, 1 scheme, 2 attack, 2 hit points. It is soldier, of course, and temporal, of course. It has quick strike with the special boost effect. You are stunned.
Simple.
Simple but effective.
That is a declarative sentence. So I have a rules question for you guys. Quick strike goes off before Hawkeye's arrows.
Ooh. I have to look. This is probably one of those when versus after phrasings.
Sure. So, because if not, that 2 hit points is really lame.
Yeah, really. Well,
quick strike. After this enemy engages a player, it immediately attacks that player if they are in hero form. So after the enemy engages, and I don't know if
does Hawkeye hit when revealed? Because what does Hawkeye do with those like weapons runner guys or whatever that surge when they are revealed?
Right, and then Hawkeye,
if he kills them,
Hawkeye is a response that says after a minion enters play, remove 1 arrow counter from Hawkeye, deal 2 damage to the minion. So it's after they enter play.
It sounds like Hawkeye kills them before they're
no, because it's a response. Responses always trigger after things like forced or passive abilities. So passive abilities will go off first.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the quick strike goes off. It's sort of like a forced interrupt.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't have that on it, but I think it would. I think the quick strike would go off first.
Clearly, this guy's all about his boost anyway.
Yes.
Oh, it's great. Like at worst, best 2 attack or worst 2 attack, best you're stunned. That's awesome. And 3 copies.
I mean, it has only 1 less attack than a T-Rex, so it's pretty good.
Good point.
Comparatively speaking.
Some sort of Egyptian Anubis warrior kind of thing, right? Like
it.
A jackal warrior going in the back door.
Ugh.
Right? I mean, it's in a restaurant, it looks like. And
Yep. Yeah.
Well,
the restaurant's heavily armored. You got to go in that way.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like eating an elephant. Am I right?
1 bite at a time.
And that red thing it's holding in its hand is just like a silverware or a redware or whatever.
Yeah, what is that? Oh yeah, it's like a scythe thing, right?
Like a Kopesh? Are we looking at the sword?
Kopesh, yeah.
Something like that.
Okay. I like it. I like the Ancient Warrior. Definitely because he gets his quick strike before Hawkeye shoots him.
Yeah, that's the official ruling now because we said so.
Yep.
There you go.
Seems
Okay.
right.
Yep.
So next we have a Chitauri soldier. 1 scheme, 1 attack with a force interrupt. With 3 hit points. He's soldier and temporal as well. Force interrupt is when he attacks you, discard the top card of the encounter deck. Take indirect damage equal to the number of boost icons in that card. And he himself comes with 1 boost icon. Seems all right.
Lame.
If his attack goes off, I like it.
Yes.
That's a big if.
So Chitauri, real quick, right? The Chitauri here, they're in the comics, they're slightly different than the MCU movies. In the MCU movies, they're like alien race that attacks New York in the first Avengers movie. They kind of work for Thanos. But in the comics, they're a race of shape-shifting aliens, and they've attempted to conquer Earth a few times, notably during World War II, then again in the early 21st century. But the Chitauri, as a people, they claim to be part of like the immune system of the universe, and they go around wiping out disorder and free will wherever they find it.
Well, now's the time to come back if you're a Chitauri.
Yeah.
Maybe they're back. You don't know.
Well, shape-shifting, so they could be here.
So Matt, one thing you didn't talk about when you were telling us about T-Rex is how they lived with like people-looking people. Yeah, they live with the Chitauris, which makes sense because I was at the Bible Museum and I did see Adam riding a T-Rex, I think. So it must have been one of these people, what I was seeing.
Are you saying we're descended from Chitauri? Adam and Eve?
I think so. Maybe. I don't know. Who was riding the dinosaur in that museum?
Mustafa? What do you think?
You're the expert, sir. I am not the paleontologist evil doctor here.
Because you were talking about the things that were around when T-Rex was. You didn't mention Chitauri or Tyrannosaurus Rex riders.
So you're saying the picture on the Tyrannosaurus Rex card is actually just regular day life?
Right.
Well, I don't know.
I think that tank top does date itself to about 40 million years ago.
I'm just saying.
I hear you.
So
I
you're
don't know
saying
what
there
to
were
tell
no
you, Daniel.
people when T-Rex was out?
I mean, it depends on what you want to set your clock to. If you want to set your clock to 6,000 years ago, I can't really help you.
Well,
yeah. There are some things that are just so difficult to confront either as a matter of comic relief or as a matter of rational discourse. I think this might be one of them.
Right. I mean, there's just so many things. And like,
Yeah.
if you were an ancient person living with dinosaurs, would you cave paint a horse? I wouldn't.
point.
Well
Good point.
said. Well
It just
said.
doesn't. I mean, just in a very practical sense, it doesn't make a lot of doesn't really jive with me, right?
I mean, the early religions would all have these giant reptilian overlords.
Right. And what do we have? Slee stacks. That's it.
It's the myth of a dragon in pretty much every culture, right? And they're all reptilian.
They're not that common.
And also, we have reptiles.
We do have, yes, in places where there are big reptiles, you get dragon stories. Then you get things like, I guess you get worms, whatever they are in
doesn't
England.
every system and culture have a dragon type thing? I think it does.
I don't know that that's true.
Really?
Yeah.
I think we borrowed it.
Like, I'm pretty sure the Inuit don't have a dragon story.
Yeah, I was gonna say Native American.
I don't
North
think
America.
I don't think the Finns have a dragon story. Maybe they do, but do the Turks have a dragon story?
There's a word.
That sounds like
for
a
it.
no. Already sounds like a no. If you
No, there's a word for it. I don't know of.
I didn't say there's a word for it. I'm saying, like, is there a major like cultural story built around a dragon?
Well, I think when you're talking about existing cultures, you're already too late for whatever, because most of our stories don't date past, maybe at best 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, right?
Sure.
I mean, we're way past caveman paintings already.
It's like lizard men, dragony hybrid things in Gilgamesh. There's Tiamat, who became a D&D dragon, but was actually a Sumerian god. Like,
I just don't know how many of those
there.
things. I don't know how many of those things are really dragon things or things that we translated to English as dragon things.
Well, this will be my homework for the week. Thanks, Matt.
All right.
I'm gonna go down that rabbit hole.
We could have T-Rexes with people if Kang was around and he gave us this last card. Mustafa, tell us about the last card.
Right. Speaking of people riding dinosaurs, this card is called Time Portal. It is a side scheme. It has a forced interrupt. When it's defeated, shuffle it into the encounter deck instead of discarding it.
Oh.
It's a hazard, a 2 threat per player, and 2 boost icons. Bog standard as far as side schemes go. I guess there's a somewhat nice thing that it keeps coming back, but it doesn't. Other than that, it doesn't sound too time portally to me. I would like it if it brought out a Tyrannosaurus Rex, for example, out of the portal. But,
and then recycled.
And then, what about those Staris who apparently keep coming back, riding dinosaurs, what have you? They could have done a lot more with this, but yet again, swing and a mostly miss for me.
Effectively, like it's an annoying card in the game when you're playing Kang and there's an extra pressure to get rid of these. Yeah, it's a great card in that set. But I gotta say, this is probably the most boring card that has a Tyrannosaurus Rex on it in any card game.
Because the art is great, right? There's the T-Rex with the ancient warrior and some modern soldier guys all fighting side by side, and then
it's just draw an extra card every round. That's what it does. Like, oh, come on.
And the Kang deck is 40 plus cards. Temporal is going to add 7 to that. Chances are you're not pulling temporal cards. You're just pulling random Kang cards as long as this is in play.
You're in there.
People let it stick around. So, yeah.
I'm disappointed too. There's no flavor text.
There's
right?
Nothing.
Like a time portal has opened up. You must go and close it. There's something. There's room on the card.
Plenty of room on the card. Missed opportunity. You're right, Steve.
Yep.
Oh.
Well,
what do we think of this set?
Oh, it's one of my favorite modular sets.
Yeah?
really?
Why is that?
Why?
It's just interesting. It's got a dinosaur in it, guys. Really, it's not the hardest modular set, but it's got a lot of different little things. It's got the direct damage. It's got the quick strike. It's got the dinosaur. It's got the hazard. It's a good, Sunday afternoon modular set.
Yeah, I like that it's minions. You want a set that's got minions? Here's 6 minions and a card that's going to try to get you more minions as you go. So, minions can, too many of them can start to hurt you with that quick strike. If you can't block the Chitauri soldier, the T-Rex isn't a super pushover with the toughness and yeah, I like that it's a bunch of minions.
And Matt, do you support the science behind this modular set?
The time science or the T-Rex science?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Awesome.
Wow. I'm gonna give it a B+, and it would be a B if there weren't a dinosaur in it. It'd be a B- if there weren't a dinosaur in it. But Mike's right. Just like there's a dinosaur.
This is a solid A.
It's a C for me, even with the dinosaur.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're hard to please, man.
you are. Because this set can go into anywhere, right? It's a modular set.
Yeah, it's a modular set.
You don't have to put it in the 40 card king set. You can put it in the
Throw it into mutagen, you're just loaded up with minions.
because that one needs to be harder.
All right, so we have an intelligentsia segment for us. We're gonna slip it right in here through the time portal, and so we had a few questions. One coming from DOHK 1014, formerly known as Meek, and Mr. L. So they both asked us a similar question. Effectively, what would we like to see villain-wise with mechanics? And since we're all veterans of the other LCGs like Lord of the Rings and Arkham Horror, are there any mechanics there that we think with a villain or encounter deck? Any good tactics that we could learn from the previous games that we'd like to see a villain with? So have you guys given this a little bit of thought? Anyone want to go first?
A little bit. First, I want to say how much I like these two guys, DOHK 1014 and Mr. L. I love those guys. They are fantastic on Discord, and I'm grateful for their contributions and their questions. So
Are
thank
they
you
your
guys.
alter egos, Daniel, that you're kind of feeding us bennies from, so that we are trying to hide the fact that we have one listener?
Well, let's just say, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thought so. I'll go first. I'd like a villain that can actually win. That would be a nice mechanic to have.
Wait, didn't you just say you guys lost?
Yeah, I don't know what he's
did.
saying.
I said we have only one. We have the mutagen formula. That's the only kind of tough deck that can actually pull off a win. That is not a fluke.
Wow.
Yeah. So that would be nice to have. FFG should design more villain cards that can actually beat heroes.
Oof. All right. I know this isn't going to be popular with everyone, but I'm going to go with time.
Oh.
Yep. That's the one where you have a certain amount of counters. Every round, something goes off.
Yep.
And when you hit 0, something bad happens. They've kind of loosely touched on this in the game, but it's been more time light in Marvel.
Mike, I think that is a great one. I didn't think of that. That is brilliant. This game needs that kind of pressure.
Because the hero's turtle. The hero's turtle. So you have a clock that says, you know what? Every 3 round, your highest cost attachment in the garbage.
Yeah, they kind of did that with Zola, right? Like every 3 rounds, you're adding tokens, and then a thing happens. And they've done that with the schemes in Wrecking Crew, right? If those hit a certain level, something happens, then it resets and keeps going up. Yeah, time could be an interesting mechanic.
Hey, maybe a time portal could open and do nothing.
No. Then you have the cards that say time portal opened. Take another time off. Boom. Now you can't plan for it. That's what I want to see. You guys can yell at me later.
No, I think it's a good idea. Anything.
So the first place I went with this, I was thinking of what are my favorite scenarios in Lord of the Rings. I didn't really think about Arkham. I didn't include that in this this thought.
We're never going to get a chaos bag, so that's okay.
Yeah, I really like the Black Serpent, and I like that scenario a lot, and sort of having to deal with his attachments and getting the objectives, and that's what you're required to get before you move on. There's sort of that kind of exists just in the fact that each villain has the 3 stages, but that mechanic of that quest where you're going and you're going into the lair of the black serpent, and you're taking his stuff, and you can't move on until you have a piece of it, and then it gets a little harder. I just think it's really neat how it works that way with the objectives. And so that was where my mind went first. I would like to see a scenario like that because it's such a fun one to play.
Yeah, that could be pretty interesting too. They've done that a few times with objectives. Save Williador, get the key in Dol Guldur before you can advance. Things like that. Yeah. Burgle stuff from the bottom of the Lonely Mountain. Maybe not the best quest, but still.
Yeah, don't do that one though.
But
but yeah, something like that. A little more interactive with the villain.
I like all those ideas. I went with less of the villain and more of the player, but it would play into the scenario. I think it'd be really cool if we had player side schemes where they have, it's that risk reward card. You can put out that side scheme, has some really terrible thing on it, tons of threat, but if you can get rid of it, you can get some sort of benefit, sort of like a guarded card, or maybe like a player's cards had insight. If player cards had insight on them, right? Is it worth the risk? Something like that, where the players can go off and do something. Maybe it's kind of like an obligation, sort of. I got to go pay my rent as Peter Parker, but I want to play this thing, and if I can get rid of that, I can get some sort of benefit. But it should give a nice big boost to the villains.
Well, it's not like the players need more power cards, but I hope if they do.
No, but the villain needs more temporary power at the beginning.
Right, and I was going there. I hope if they do that, they won't do it as lame as they've done all the obligations where there's really no choice and really no consequence other than, I'm exhausted this turn.
Yeah, I think like seeing the players do some self-inflicted wounds on themselves could be pretty fun.
I would like one. Okay, now that we're on Fantasyland, I would like one where heroes can switch sides and start attacking their previous teammates and can win that way.
Wow, a traitor mechanic.
Yeah,
or not even, but in Lord of the Rings we have the 2-player competitive mode where you build the modular set and give it to the other team to play against. This game could work like that. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it does have a Civil War movie, does it not?
Right.
Yeah.
So it seems. So one thing it would be interesting, and I'm not sure how they would do it, but I've been thinking about this actually since the game came out. Is like it would be interesting if there was a way to build a scenario where defeating the villain was not punching him to death. And I don't know how you would do it necessarily, but so far that's the only way to beat a villain, right?
Are there any comics where they defeat a villain without punching them to death?
That's the only way they ever beat things. That's how they say hi in the comic books. They start a fight.
I guess, but there's got to be some brainy moment in the comics, no?
I mean, it seems like that's got to be an option somewhere.
The silence speaks for itself.
Like those villains who are like sciencey and stuff, like Dr. Matt here. Like, can't you beat them? Like, you just really have to just punch them in the face till they stop doing science?
Basically, because they use their science to make giant monstrosities or giant robots or giant T-Rexes you have to punch.
Or they have some sort of invulnerability and then you have to science their invulnerability so that now you can punch them.
Right? Yeah.
It's like high school all over again. All right. Fine. Ugh.
Bad memories of getting punched, Daniel?
Well, it's why I didn't go into science in high school.
Okay.
There is a rough crowd.
Oh, that and I had an IQ of 14. But other than that.
Doubled mine. Pretty good.
So those are our answers. I think they're good.
Yeah.
Those would be great to see in the game.
Yeah, thanks for the questions there, Meek and Mr. L.
One last one. I'd like to see the villain actually be played by a human.
I think that happened once and it didn't go so well.
We have to work on that.
All right. Well, evil Dr. Matt Carrano, thank you very much for coming on the show and telling us all the great stuff about the T-Rex and for being a good sport with us. It's been a pleasure.
I think this might be the most informative episode we've ever done in terms of like value for
like actual knowledge.
Yeah. Sorry, listener. It took us 55 episodes to get here, but we did.
We finally brought in an expert.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Matt.
Matt, great to have you here.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thanks, guys. I had a great time. This is a good show. I mean, I knew that, but I want to reinforce it for your listeners.
You're too kind. And we
You
only
heard
have
that from
one.
an expert, folks.
Yes.
A doctor.
A
We had, to,
scientist.
we had to pay him.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
but yes.
Now we have to pay the guy.
We're Critical Encounters, and we approve this message.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
God.
do you, dear listeners, want to get a hold of us? Perhaps you have the missing blueprints for a murder banana. Email us at criticalencounterspod@gmail.com. On Facebook, we are Critical Encounters. Or hop onto Discord and message either Vardane, Big Foam Loaf, The Truth, or Wandering Took. And let us know what you think. If you like our show, tell your friends. If you don't like our show, tell your enemies. Tyrannosaurus Rex, take us out.